whatever, but then.
All right.
One of my friends.
It's not even worth it.
All right, guys.
All the meetings were at, it was all virtual and everything. So
Have a seat, Fred.
His sister lived in India.
I feel like we go as far north as Chesterfield.
All right, we're going to get the meeting going.
What do we do?
This is the May 14th, 2026 Town of Fishkill Planning Board meeting, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. And if you would all please stand if you are able to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just a couple of announcements to make sure you silence your cell phones and speak clearly into the microphone. Can everyone hear through the microphone okay? It should be working all right. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voting members, I think.
Yes.
All right, good. And we have 1 alternate member in case needed at some point. So just to mention, congratulations go to Kevin O'Connell, who was appointed, he was formerly an alternate planning board member, appointed by the town board as a regular voting member now. And also congratulations to Fred Cantor, who was reappointed for a second 4-year term. All right, good going, Fred. And also to Vijay Gopal, who was reappointed for a 1-year term as an alternate member. All right.
So we're missing 1 alternate.
Yeah, so we have a vacancy in one of the alternate positions, so if anyone out there is interested in being appointed, we have an application form, and you can get all that through the town clerk's office and
website as well.
Website as well. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch with Debbie, and she can tell you all about how the planning board works, right?
Sure.
She tells us all the time, so.
I'll try not to scare anybody.
Yeah. All right. Okay, thank you. So we've got 1 request for an extension of approval. That's for 1556 Route 52 and 1562 Route 52. I won't read the whole thing because we've read it quite a number of times now, but it's this is for an additional 6-month extension, and we've had quite a few. Welcome, Mr. Peavitt. Why don't you just tell us why there's a need for an additional extension?
We still have the health department review. I was told that there has been progress made on the agreement with the firehouse for the sewer. That's all I know at the moment, so that's why we're requesting an additional 6-month extension.
Okay. Any questions from board members?
I'm going to say, you trying to wait for I thought it came across the road. It's now at the firehouse.
It did, yes.
And you're just asking to hook in?
I believe so, but there was an agreement, I think, that needed to be signed between...
And it's going to take 6 months to do it?
I'm not sure. I don't work in that legal department, but I was told that there was progress being made.
I was wondering, does they really need 6 months?
I mean...
Yeah, I mean, that's a question we should ask our attorney, Dominic, if you think a 6-month extension is warranted in this case. I know the last several have been 6-month extensions, and we're still moving along slowly but surely.
Yeah, and since this does involve discretionary actions from other outside agencies, sometimes it does take a significant amount of time in order to bring those things to fruition. And since there's been no change in law or change in circumstances surrounding this particular site, so it's not as if, there's been a redesign of the intersection or other things like that, could force the board to, or encourage the board to relook at the approved plans. And given the fact that there is no change in law or change in circumstances, they would be entitled to a 6-month extension.
My only thought is, what's the definitive reasons for the 6-month extension? So that we can, is it the health department only?
It's tied in. We're done with the DOT review, and then all that's left is to resolve the sewer situation on the site.
So that's the reason for the 6-month extension, is the sewer and the tie-in and the other agency dependency.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So if the board is okay with that, would someone like to make a motion to approve a further 6-month extension of the resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval for 1556 and 1562 Route 52? That would go through December 6, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Bob moves it, and was that Anthony?
Yes.
Seconding. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right, that carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And good luck. Next, we have a request for readoption of approval. This is Johnson Trails 5-lot subdivision. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on April 29, 2026, which is a request for a readoption of the resolution of conditional final approval. I won't read the whole statement, but why don't you just tell us, welcome Mike, and why don't you tell us what the circumstances are, where you stand with the approval process,
Okay.
and
Good night all. We've been moving forward. We've had a couple extensions on this project already. The latest snafu was, and unfortunately it sounds like a running theme here, with the health department. We had a new review engineer up there, and he got a new set of eyes on it, so he had a couple of changes that he wanted us to make, but we're right there with them. We've been working diligently on the town engineer's comments, as well as all the legal beagle paperwork that's been going on. But we actually had submitted for an extension request initially, but the approval was only good till yesterday. So, long story short, procedurally, we missed it for a day, and we're asking now, it has to be a readoption of the approval based upon the way the dates worked out. So that's the reason why it's on for readoption and not an extension.
so the good news is that if you get the readoption, I guess it's good for another whole year.
That's correct.
But the bad news is we can't do it tonight. We have to authorize the preparation of a resolution. So,
Yeah, I think I knew that was going to happen.
yeah. So are there any questions or comments from board members?
Well, I get to say, when you get the readoption, how long is it going to take to finalize this?
We're in a position to go ahead and make the final submittal to the town as soon as we get our health department. So, I mean, we're not going to need a year, you know. I would say give it probably another 2-3 months by the time all the paperwork goes back and forth and everything's approved and so forth. So, realistically.
So, Dennis, do you have any, I know it's been a while, and I don't even know if you were that involved with the original subdivision, but if you have any...
No, I think as I mentioned, they had submitted before, and all the comments have been addressed. I think the only outstanding thing on our part was just the final signatures from the Board of Health.
Just a quick question on the Board of Health. You mentioned there are some technical changes in what they wanted to see, but is there anything that would actually affect the subdivision plans themselves as far
No.
as what the planning board has seen?
The layout, all the septic areas, the wells, everything lays out the same. So there's no consummate change that would affect this board's what they've seen for the project the last time it was before you. So.
Okay. Dominic? Oh, go ahead.
So if you read up, Next month, in June, so that will be 1 year from June, valid for 1 year from June?
Well, I think it would actually be,
180.
well, yeah, because the
6 months.
resolution won't be done until June, but, so right now, there is no approval. The approval expired because they
So-
didn't apply for the extension.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we do authorize and then pass the resolution next month, then the year would go from next month on to the next year.
So basically, they are getting a 1 month extra.
Well, that's
Yeah.
one way of looking at it, I guess. Right now, they're in no man's land, so to speak.
Yes.
So.
And this is exactly the situation that the code provides for, for readoption of an approval is where an approval has expired, but once again, when there's not been any change in circumstances or any change to the plans, the town has this process, which I find is actually really helpful. There's a number of towns that don't specifically allow for this type of situation, and in those towns it's a much more difficult and gray area when someone comes in and says, well, my plan expired, or my approval expired rather, but I'm not changing the plan, and some towns, require those applicants to reapply, and when you reapply, like it re-triggers all of the procedural aspects of, re-referral to county planning, public hearing again, things like application fees, all of those things. And so I do have to say that Fishkill has this, process which is really meant to accommodate applicants that are working on satisfying their conditions of approval, but it's taking longer than anticipated.
I guess some towns and villages would even require a new seeker resolution to be done.
Correct. Correct.
So we take care of that all in the resolution that we draft, and if we find that really everything is the same as it was before, then there's no need to go through that process again.
Right.
All right, with having said all that, would someone like to make a motion to authorize our planning board attorney to draft a resolution readopting the resolution of conditional final approval for the Johnson Trails 5-lot subdivision for consideration at the June 11th planning board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Anthony moves it and Felix seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. All right, so now we're getting to project reviews. The first one is actually reviewing a draft resolution of reapproval for a different project, 62 Greenwood Drive, land development permit. This was discussed at the April meeting, and I did watch that on video, so I'm all up to speed on all that. And our planning board attorney was requested to prepare a draft resolution, so we have that tonight. So why don't we get right to that, Dominic, if you want to go through that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this one's pretty straightforward. This is for the 62 Greenwood Drive project. You should have before you draft number 3. It's dated May 11th. And this really pertains to the fact that the project's actually been sold. And so the original application and those applicants, have now been replaced by the new owners, which is Jody Evans and Adam El Sahami. And so as a result, for title purposes, for bonding purposes, and for closing this project out, the prior owners' names can't be on the final plans. And so they have requested a reapproval that now names the new owners of the site who want to proceed with finalizing the approval and building their home. And
Correct.
so it's really summed up as simple as that. I mean, I can go through the conditions if the board wants to, but they're exactly the same as the prior conditions. In this resolution, really the only significant change is to note that there are new owners.
And the applicants and the new owners are fully aware of all the conditions that were in the resolution, I take it?
Yes, they've read it, and I've ran them through all of them as well.
Okay. Good. And I know, one of them, of course, has to do with performance bonds, so they're aware of that as well, right?
Yep, that's why we're going through all this right now, just so they can get the bond. They're anxious to get that underway. So as soon as we get this finalized, I'll get it over to them.
My understanding was that the bonding company actually wouldn't issue the bond because the the prior approval resolution wasn't in their name. So even though they own the property, but nonetheless, here we are. So.
Okay. So any questions from board members?
No, not here.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
All right, this is adopting the resolution of second approval, 62 Greenwood Drive, land development permit, as reviewed tonight, and to authorize the chair to sign it.
Second.
So Fred moved it, and I think I heard Kevin second it.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that carries.
Okay.
All right, well, congratulations to the new owners, and hopefully they'll be able to move it along smoothly.
They're going to be very happy. Thank you.
Good, okay.
Some of
thanks.
it-
Here,
All right, we move on to Willow Lake Partners Group LLC, site development plan, special use permit, and freshwater wetlands water course water body permit, or to review a draft negative declaration and to consider adopting and authorizing the chair to sign said document. So I'll just mention that, although again I wasn't here at the last meeting, I know the planning board adopted the EAF parts 2 and 3 and authorized MJ to prepare a draft neg deck, which we have in front of us tonight. That would be a determination of non-significance. So, welcome applicant team. Do you want to make any comments or give us any good information before we get to going through the draft neg deck?
Good evening, first of all. Sure, sir.
Yeah, good evening all. Zach Camp, Dynamic Engineering, Chairman, welcome back. No, we're looking forward to going through the neg deck and answering any questions that the board has.
All right, and if the applicant team has any questions or comments as we're going through the draft, feel free to let us know, and we can do that as we're going through it. So Anisha Samuels is senior planner at MJ, and if you could go through the draft for us, that would be great, and go through it in as much detail as you feel we should have. I think the board, probably will have some questions and comments, and board members feel free to interrupt, so to speak, if you have any questions as we're going through it.
So the draft has been drafted and circulated to the applicants as well as the board, and we'll start by going through each of the potential areas of significance or non-significance. The first one is impact on land. There was no significant or basically small impact on land. Also surface water and groundwater. The areas that there were impacts that were somewhat contentious was flooding, plants and animals, aesthetic resources, transportation, and consistency with the community plans. The first one I'll go through is flooding. The stormwater management design fully complies with local and state requirements and ensures runoff flows are released in a controlled manner. As such, we found that this had small impacts to the project and the surrounding areas. The second area of small impact was to plants and animals. A biodiversity report was submitted, dated July 2025, which confirmed that there were no threatened or endangered species on the property. Also, the applicant proposes to restrict clearing to November through March 31st, which also will mitigate any potential impacts as it pertains to plants and animals. Further, the applicant proposes to incorporate bird-safe specialized glass treatments, which will reduce the risk to bird strikes and injuries or fatalities. The next area of small impact was the aesthetic resources. This was a major concern from the public. The applicant has provided visual renderings which are satisfactory in terms of mitigating any potential visual impacts. The applicant proposes landscaping that will visually appease any potential impacts from the project. Due to the topography of the bowl-shaped landscape, also that is mitigating any potential impacts, the property is surrounded by steep slopes and woods, which are remaining undisturbed for the most part. The project proposes construction of a retaining wall, which requires a height variance. Notably, the height variance is only required for under 5% of the total retaining wall. Further, the applicant proposes vegetative buffers which will mitigate any potential impacts from any potential visual impacts. Another area of small impact was transportation. The project proposes to introduce vehicle trips above what is currently occurring. However, the applicant proposes methods that will mitigate any potential issues, including valet parking. There may be some minor impacts pertaining to unfamiliar drivers, but the applicant has proposed mitigated measures such as signage that we believe will mitigate any potential impacts from traffic. Consistency with the community plans. So the parcel is a split zone parcel between R40 and R4A, which are both primarily single-family zones. However, the applicant is proposing to conserve as best as possible the property and rebuild in a way that is suitable with the natural environment and conserving as much land as possible. So we found it to be a measure of mitigation and consistent with neighborhood plans. Consistency with the community character, the landscaping plans integrate existing vegetation with new landscaping. Furthermore, the building and several outbuildings will be preserved, and the proposed architecture will reflect the original character of the site. The proposed project was found to be generally consistent with the diverse community character of this area, as the applicant proposes to preserve approximately 105 acres. The proposed action will not result in any significant impacts to geological features, air, agricultural resources, open space, recreation, or critical environmental areas, energy, or human health. As such, I am presenting the determination of non-significance for the board's review.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, suggestions from board members? Kevin, go ahead.
The only thing that I read in the report, which I thought was necessary to be listed, was that there really is no well or septic system plan for the project, and as a result, the project meets all of the criteria required to be in the aquifer protection zone. So if there's some changes to that project detail as construction starts, I would expect that we would see you guys again for any changes.
Yes, to support that item number 3, underground water, states that the project does not include a well or septic field, and the proposed site work complies with the town's aquifer protection overlay district standards.
And just to speak to that, if there was a change of that magnitude, we would have to amend the plan and come back before the board.
Yeah, of course, that would be a major change in the whole project, so that would be basically, I guess, the process. Dominic, maybe you could let us know what the process for doing that would be in terms of the seeker regulations.
Yeah, I mean, that would reopen, seeker as far as a site plan amendment application, so they would need to, once the board adopts this particular negative declaration, assuming that you do, any changes in the future would need to be measured against what the record has been up to this point.
Okay. All right. I have a few things just to bring up, but other questions or comments from board members?
No.
Let me start on page 2, and then I think it's also repeated in other places, but it talks about construction anticipated to last for a certain length of time. So And the first reference is in number 1 on page 2,
Read it home.
talks about 17 months, and then it again is brought up under steep slope construction and references 24 months. And then I think it comes up again later. Let's see where that is, but it refers to a 24-month period. And I think in the part 1 of the EAF, it actually references 24 months. But then again, we've seen a lot of other documents. So first of all, I think we need to have consistency in our wording in the neg deck, but let's go to the applicant team and just sort of get a reiteration of what the actual anticipated construction time would be.
Yeah, so we anticipate it to be between 18 to 24 months, as we discussed at the previous meeting. I do see the reference to 17 months.
Yeah.
So for consistency, we have no objection if that's updated to the 24 months.
Yeah, so I would just suggest, and I think there are 3 places in the neg deck where it's mentioned, and it should all be references 18 to 24 months.
I found it, John. So the first, where it says 17 months is the first paragraph of number 1, and then the 24-month reference is the last paragraph of number 1.
Right.
And then the reference to 18 to 24 months shows up in number 9 at the very end of the first paragraph. And those are the 3
Right.
locations where months are mentioned.
Okay, thanks, Anthony.
Would it be advisable to say not exceeding 24 months?
I think 18 to 24 months is the way the applicant has been presenting it, so I think that covers it. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I had just a little bit of suggested wording on page 3. This is in number 2, surface water. And it's the second, well, I'll read that whole first part of the paragraph. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharges that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. Then it goes on to say the proposed disturbance was designed and restricted to areas outside of wetlands, the 100-foot NISDEC regulated wetland buffers, water courses, and water bodies. And I would also just add, because this also applies to other areas besides wetlands and water bodies, I would add wording such as this: and to a large extent, disturbance is limited to previously disturbed, undeveloped areas of the site. Because I think it's sort of implied in other areas, but I don't know that we actually fully say that in the neg deck, and I wanted to make it clear that we are saying that, and I know the applicant has emphasized that in a number of cases. So if we could add wording like that, would that be all right with the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have no objection to that. Could we just find the location and the verbiage? to
Yeah,
go through?
so it's, again, on page 3, the middle paragraph, second sentence. So it's, the proposed disturbance was designed and restricted to areas outside of wetlands, the 100-foot DEC regulated wetland buffers, water courses, and water bodies, and to a large extent, disturbance is limited to previously disturbed, developed areas of the site, disturbed/developed areas of the site.
Yeah, we have no issue with that.
All right, you have that, Anisha and Debbie? Well, you'll get it from
Anisha
Anisha.
has been kind enough to be revising them, so
Good.
it's up to her.
Thank you.
Whatever you prefer.
All right. One thing, it's not a change, but we wanted to make sure it was emphasized on page 4, where it's talking about plants and animals. The last paragraph really talks about the use of bird-safe glass treatments on building facades, and I thought that was something really good that the applicant had proposed to do, and so we wanted to make sure that that was highlighted in this. There is a spacing issue on page 7, so that's just cleaning up the spacing issue a little bit. That's at the top, first sentence. And then at the bottom of page 7, Anisha was going through this with community character, but I wanted to make sure the board was okay with the wording in the last sentence where it says, overall, the board concludes that the proposal fits within the mixed character of the surrounding area while incorporating measures to mitigate potential neighborhood effects. I thought that was good wording, but I wanted to make sure the board was okay with that. And that was it, as far as I could tell. Any other questions or comments from board members?
No, not for me.
All right. So is the applicant team all right with the statements?
We are, yes.
Okay. Dominic, did you have any thoughts or suggestions that
No,
you might
sir.
have missed?
No, sir. Thank you for the opportunity, though.
Okay. All right, then. Do we have a motion to approve the draft negative declaration for the proposed Willow Lake Partners Group Site Development Plan, Special Use Permit, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit as reviewed and revised tonight, and authorize the chair to sign it?
So moved. Second.
Felix moves it. Was that Fred?
Fred.
Fred, all right, Fred seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that passes. So the ZBA is meeting on May 19th, so now that the planning board has adopted the neg deck, the zoning board should be able to move ahead with their
As
deliberations.
long as I get them the neg deck, that meeting night, yes, absolutely.
Mhm. Oh, I'm confident that you will, Debbie.
You're too kind,
Not to put any pressure on you.
No, not at all.
I know that the ZBA has been anxiously awaiting
Yeah.
that to be able to
Very
move
true.
ahead. So I guess this is a question for you, Dominic. Are there any other actions that the planning board should do tonight, now that we've done the neg deck? As an example, might be authorizing a draft resolution, and that would be up to still the board to define what that would be when a resolution, assuming that the ZBA might take actions on the variances. Would that be appropriate, or would it be better for us to wait until the ZBA actually does take action?
Not necessarily, so my thought on this, and I think I've said this in the past, is that, the mere act of preparing the resolutions doesn't bind the board, and also provides a basis for the board to review the conditions and see what is being proposed as far as what's required for the project. In this particular case, you have a combined resolution, in my mind, would be site plan and special use permit approval. And then there's also the freshwater wetlands watercourse permit as well. So that would be a separate resolution. They could be authorized for preparation at the June meeting. It's certainly possible that the ZBA, now that the board has adopted the negative declaration, that the ZBA would be in a position to conclude its process at its May meeting. And if that's the case, then, I would expect that the applicant, unless they're anticipating any major changes to the plans, and I see heads are shaking no, that, the next step for them would be simply to come back in June and request that you prepare those resolutions for July. And there wouldn't be any other purpose for their appearance in June other than to come in and make that request. Of course, my suggestion would be, though, is that if for whatever reason that the ZBA does not conclude its process in May, then my suggestion would be is that this item, even though we would prepare the resolutions, that they would not be placed on the agenda until they either obtain their variances from the ZBA or otherwise request and provide an update to the board. It basically, saves, is a more efficient use of time, I think, for everyone, because in that case, it's getting rid of the need of just coming in and making that request at that particular time.
All right. Well, one further thought I had on it is that the board might, if we do decide to authorize a draft resolution for next month, tentatively, depending what happens at the zoning board, at this stage, it might be better to do a resolution of preliminary site plan approval.
Yes, sir.
Which actually could be used with a phrasing in there about the pending variances. I mean, we can still grant preliminary approval subject to the ZBA granting variances. I know that's been done by communities in the past.
Yes, sir.
But if we do preliminary site plan, I guess we've had questions about whether we should also proceed with the language on special use permit approval at that same point, because I know sometimes I think we've waited till the final approval to do the special use permit wording.
Yes, you could make an argument for it in either scenario, but the board could certainly consider preliminary site plan approval, which serves the purpose of identifying the fact that the plan as currently proposed, is the plan that, they can work through any outside agency approvals on, and they can then come back and request a conditional final approval when they feel that they're ready for that.
And then the final, not complication, but technicality is we could also hold off on authorizing the freshwater wetlands water body permit until final approval, since that actually, the period of time for that starts
when the approval is granted.
So it might make sense not to start the clock on that until we're actually granting the final approval.
That is a fair point.
So, with all those, what does the board think? Should we even do any of those, or should we wait till the zoning board acts? And I know I don't know if you've all watched some of the zoning board videos, but it's been contentious, so to speak. So what is your feeling?
I'm not really sure what's going to come out of the ZBA, so.
If I might, not that I want to speak for that board, but I can confidently tell you that if in fact they do agree to vote on this at our next meeting, they won't get a resolution that night. It'll be pushed off till the June meeting, just like we do here.
So that would be after our June meeting?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe preliminary is the way to go.
So that's sort of as a reason
I'm pretty confident saying that.
To wait until we hear what happens at the ZBA meeting, since it won't actually happen until, what is that date, June 17th or something? No.
It's a week after our
Yeah.
June 11. Yeah, 16th.
16.
16th. So with all that, I know the applicant would love to weigh in on all that stuff.
Well, naturally, we would like to proceed to review a draft resolution. If I think that time with the board would be very helpful, and you could discuss whatever issues there are, reserving the right not to take any action at all, or to grant a preliminary approval. So we don't think that any of that time would be wasted, and we think that it would be really an efficient use of the board's time as well as ours if you would authorize the preparation of drafts for your consideration.
And as the chairman mentioned, the preliminary approval resolution could be also contingent on the actual grant of the variance as well. So it's not as though it couldn't be adopted until the ZBA acts. It could be a conditional approval.
Yeah, I think.
I prefer that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, maybe just.
I also, I like the idea of combining the preliminary site plan with the special use permit language in that first resolution, because, I know we've talked about it a lot, and the applicant has provided the board with their own thoughts on how the project does or does not meet the special use permit requirements in the town code. But it would give the planning board an opportunity to really go through that wording kind of step by step and see it written out in a draft resolution.
That would be my preference as well. I have a legal philosophical problem with your concern with granting even a preliminary site plan approval for a use that also requires a special permit use where the special permit use actually hasn't been granted yet. So in my mind, legally they should go hand in hand.
I think I've heard you say that before.
Probably.
Sorry, I forgot.
I repeat myself, I apologize.
So what does the board think? Sounds like we're kind of leaning towards a draft resolution for our June meeting that would have preliminary site development plan and special use permit. It could include, as Dominic said, some wording about receipt of the pending variances, and if the variances won't have been granted by our June meeting. So even if we do decide to go ahead and approve the resolution, the wording in it would be such that it would be contingent on obtaining the variances. And I think to be really more clean, we could also just hold off on authorizing the resolution on the wetlands water body permit at that early stage. So it could be, so here's some suggested wording. Motion authorizing the planning board attorney to prepare a draft resolution of preliminary site development plan and special use permit approval for the proposed Willow Lake Partners LLC project located on Van Wyck Lake Road for the board's consideration at the June 11th, 2026 meeting. See, I already assumed that maybe we would get to that point.
All right.
Does that sound like something that somebody would like to make a motion for?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Felix moves it, and Kevin seconds it. So, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 7-0. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks for
Good luck
coming,
at the-
and good luck at the
Yeah,
zoning
good luck
board.
for next meeting.
very much. Thank you all.
All right, we are moving right along, and I'm going to move right along, too. Now, I'm going to leave you here to struggle yourselves, because the next item is Duchess Manor, site redesign and restoration, site development plan and special use permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on April 29th, 2026. I am recusing myself from discussion on this item, and I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Anthony Brozier to fill in his chair and take over for the remainder of the meeting, and that means I can go home early.
I like this team tomorrow.
And that is exactly what I intend to do.
Made your motion to adjourn.
Well, no, you can do that too.
I won't be doing that right now.
No.
No, we got.
Well, you could, but that would not be fair to the applicant.
I don't think that's going to fly.
So I'm going to pack my stuff up while you start off.
Fair enough.
And good seeing you all.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you.
You as well.
Right.
So, with that said,
Chairman Cantor did introduce the item. I do have a few items I want to mention before I turn it over to the applicant. So last month, this board adopted the certificate of appropriateness for the building structure, and this board also adopted the negative declaration for the application. And this board has also been made aware that the applicant has submitted a request for a determination to the ZBA pertaining to Town Code, Chapter 150-11, which is on the agenda for the May 19th, 2026 ZBA meeting for that board's consideration. And then one other item I want to address, with Chairman Cantor recusing himself from this application, I am going to appoint alternate planning board member Vijay Gopal as a voting member for this item this evening. And for the rest of the evening, because Mr. Cantor will be going home.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
With that said, I welcome the applicant team, Helen Mauch and Amy Casala. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Members of the board, Helen Mauch, Mincer Mauch, on behalf of the applicant, HHFT, Amy Casala, Executive Director, and here is Peter Mullen, President, and we also have Tyler Garrity from Creighton Manning Engineering, because we do have a couple of clarifying questions based on the last round of comments that we received. So what we thought the plan could be tonight is for Amy to go through the reduced scale site plan that we submitted on April 29th. It is showing a total parking now of 124 spaces and a southern landscape buffer of 139 feet. And then after Amy presents, we can respond to your comments and questions. Then would like to have some clarification, if we could, on a couple of the comments from MJ, and then discuss next steps.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
I see the presentation's up, so
Great,
take
thank
it away.
you.
It's very brief today, so if it's driving. I just wanted to take a second to review the next layer of reduction of parking spaces that we've done and the increase of that vegetated buffer. This is where we've kind of always been working the site plan on that southern end. So this is just the latest version of that. So you remember originally this had a parking area that spanned both lots in this swoop fashion, required more site disturbance to do that because of the topography change between the sites. So we smoothed that out where there's less overall site modification and keep more of the current topography where there's the main lot where it's currently located, and then a lower lot that's gravel that's only used for overflow. So we've looked at that, and in doing, so we've obviously changed the buffer over time. It had been 20 feet, then it went to 40 feet. Now it's between 45 and 82 feet. Don't have my reading glasses on. And so now here's where we've pushed it. So it's still the same lot on the above, but on the gravel overflow, which used to have a turf overflow component to it, we're now proposing that just be gravel. So you went from this to this. So pinching it in, making it smaller. We put in that island for circulation in that lower area. So now that has 47 additional spaces there, but instead of having it be a grass overflow parking area as well, we would just have that vegetated and turned into some meadow with some shrubs on the edges. So you see, you also have almost a double vegetated buffer here because you have this vegetated buffer, but then you also have the shrub line on the lot itself. So we think that'll really help with the screening, any views from the south coming into this, and the fact that there would not be cars in this turf area, and they would be inside behind a double layer of defense of shrubbery and other plantings. So that's the principal change.
And the overflow area is still gravel, would be gravel cover as it was in its previous iteration?
Correct. Still gravel. and gated, so we can control access to it.
Comments from board members on what's been presented up to this point here?
I'm gonna wait until.
Okay, yeah, we can get back to the, yeah, I was kind of more asking about this.
Well, I have one question. We originally had 2 lanes coming off of 9D. Now we're only going to have 1, because we originally were moving to the lane that, to the chorus.
In this, right, so
You
it's
look- yeah, when I'm looking at it, it's all gone.
correct. So there would have to be a relocated driveway for this property that's here.
But you had a discussion with the fire department way back when about that. So where do they stand with just the one entrance now?
Don't have it. That's not in my, Tyler, do you have?
Yeah, yep, yeah, so, good evening, Tyler Garrity. The secondary access, we're gonna leave a gap there. You can see it in front of the dwelling there.
Well, you're not showing it anywhere.
Yeah,
Anything that you presented
this
to us.
illustration has some trees that were previously there, but we relocated that to leave a gap in that middle area. So once we get that second driveway, which is in conjunction with, separately but in conjunction, we'll have that secondary means of access
Well,
between
you're
the
going to
two
show it on
properties.
any of the maps or?
It's on the
anything?
plan set, yeah, I think this
Okay,
illustrative
because
plan.
nothing that you presented so far.
No, it's in the, it was
uh,
It's
in the previous.
one of the original ones, but not in the latest one.
It's not in this image, he's saying, but it was in the site plan set that you received.
It wasn't, and I didn't see it, so it's
Is the
okay.
plan set available to be pulled up? Is it?
Well, they have a before, they had a couple of before ones, and then they showed us this one.
We may be
And
able-
I didn't see it.
We'll get the sheet.
Well, if it's not, it got to be.
He's got it.
We've got
Okay.
it. We'll show
All
it
right.
to you.
And another question I have too is, those gates going to be electronic gates or manual gates? Because right now, with all the employees coming in, they're going to have to go through the second gate.
We haven't we're still evaluating our gate options, whether it should be manual and have to be manually closed by staff or opened by staff, or if staff driving through just want to swipe something and go through.
And how about the main gate coming in too?
The main gate right now is manual and it'll probably stay
It's just
manual.
going to be manual. They'll just be closed at night and... Oh, and then my question is after dusk, if you have it closed manually, and the staff is only using that same one, how are they getting out? Unless you're going to have, because I'm assuming that the fire gate is going to be a closed gate.
Staff would be the ones locking it at the end of the day.
They'd have to get out and
Yeah.
open it.
One of the things we're evaluating too is whether we should have a gate that just, you can't come in anymore, but it'll go up if you're trying to leave. There are things like that, like Minnewaska State Park.
Yeah, that's true. They open from, when you're coming from this.
Something else I noticed, and I don't believe we ever talked about it before. You're only going to have one bathroom? Is that correct?
No, there's 4 stalls in the outside bathroom.
Yeah.
And then there's additional facilities that'd be open to the public in the building on the first floor and the ground, and the basement floor.
Okay, but the one outside is just going to be a one?
It's 4.
It'll be 4 bathrooms outside?
Yeah.
So the secondary access to the adjacent property is now being eliminated, basically?
He's saying not.
Not.
He's
No.
saying not, but it's not on the
So
plans.
is there, yeah.
It's not on the plans.
Yeah, I don't see it on the, is there
I
a
mean,
need for an
I
easement?
went over the plans, but I
The-
could very easily miss it.
If you refer to C-112, like just our layout plan, it's indicated on there at a pretty large scale.
All right. Well, okay.
It's just east of the gate going to the dwelling, the 14 chorus dwelling.
Let me see if I can do this. Is it in here?
I did see you have 7 EV stations. I did see you have 5 handicap stations. And I also did not see a sign for the staff. Would it be staff parking only?
That'd be,
I didn't see it, but it could be there.
a sign that says that? No.
Because what people can get into that gate, what,
In the
I'm
overflow.
assuming you don't want them to go towards the house. You want them to go down the hill.
Our staff.
So I
Well,
thought
there's a
maybe-
mix. So there'd be staff using, so they could park in front of the building at Duchess Manor, or there's parking at 14 Chorus. Because we only have 10 parking spaces over by 14
So if
Chorus.
they go up towards the office, you don't care if they park there?
No.
Now, with the secondary access being maintained, there'd be a need for an easement?
That's already in
There, it is, okay, that is in place. Any other questions about this layout at this point?
I don't have a question about the layout per se. I just wondered, have you communicated this yet to the neighbors, and what was their reaction?
Communicated the reduction in parking?
Yeah.
No, the last time we met with the neighbors, they or invited for a meeting, they said they were not interested in meeting anymore. So we haven't had further meetings since that time. But they are here tonight, so they're hearing it.
One question, the gate to the extra parking will always be closed, right? I mean, it will be closed and it will be open only if needed, right?
To the overflow.
Yeah, overflow
Correct.
parking, yeah. Overflow.
Correct.
Will open only if needed.
Only
If the front main parking is.
Correct, so most days of the year, it will be just sitting there with the gate closed. It's really for those days when you have more visitation coming, like a weekend in October, leaf peepers.
You know, some of the plans that we talk about, we ask, what are you gonna do about snow? But I'm assuming if it really snows,
The numbers go way down in winter,
yeah, I'm
right?
assuming it's gonna go way down, so it's less important, but I
Right.
just,
That's why up above, we have the pavement, which can be plowed for winter levels of visitation, but in the warmer months, snow's not an issue, and that's when people are out. So we wouldn't need to plow the lower lot.
So the overflow parking gate has to be somewhat manual, I mean, because it's not always open. I mean.
Correct. We'll be staffed up more on days when we expect heavier visitation, which is when that would be used. We might also use some volunteers to help kind of direct people down there, but otherwise it is closed.
I was at the Vanderbilt Mansion last weekend, and there was an RV there, big RV,
Uh-huh.
and they had the parking there, so, but I'm assuming you're still going to say if they bring in a big RV, you're gonna somehow get them down to the lower lot.
It depends on that, how busy it is that day. If there's plenty of space in the
Well,
lot.
some of them are the pull ones.
Hmm?
You have the pull ones. You know, they have the big truck. and then
Oh, a trailer, yeah.
Trailers.
Depending on how busy the lot is, I
Yeah,
think,
okay.
yeah, you'd have to make that decision.
Are you gonna have, you have some bicycle racks, I saw that. You gonna have anything for the motorcycles, or just let them park in the regular spots?
Regular spots.
Get down to the nitty gritty.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I just wanted to get the initial questions about the presentation out of the way. I think
Yep.
we're good there. So I think at this point, let's go to the consultant review memos. I know there were some comments that applicant team wanted to discuss as well. And then I think we can come back to the board for additional comments from there, if that makes sense. So I'll start with Christian Moore, who's here from CPL this evening. CPL prepared a memo dated May 5th, 2026. Good evening, Christian.
Hello, everyone. Again, Christian Moore with CPL, reading a memo prepared by Megan Zapatoski, could not be here this evening, dated May 5th regarding the project. Just a couple informational items. Seeker, Planning Board adopted the full AEF Parts 2 and 3 at the March 12 meeting, adopted a neg deck on April 9th, and no further seeker action is required. Submitted plans are complete per the code of Town of Fishkill, et cetera, et cetera. Planning Board issued a certificate of appropriateness at the April 9th Planning Board meeting for the adaptive reuse of the historic manor. Regarding plan comments, they're fairly minor, renumbering of some sheets. There was some discussion of the selective use of herbicides, that's been addressed. They've provided 4 additional signs, 3 along the north property line, 1 at the southern property line, and they're shown on SN 001. They've addressed comments regarding landscaping buffers, now consisting of approximately 80% evergreens. Security issues with gate access, those have been addressed. They provided a brief narrative in their response outlining closing security measures, including staff checks, gate closures, and video surveillance. They've revised the parking, as they've stated in their presentation, to provide 124 spaces. The previous version had overflow parking to the south that was gravel and lawn. Now it's gravel only. A number of other comments that have been addressed satisfactorily. They provided a letter from DOT dated April 28th, 2026, requesting some additional information. Do you have a status update on communication with DOT?
Yeah, we're working with them. We submitted stage 2 plans, so we're just waiting for feedback from those. We had a meeting with them previously. They gave us some feedback, we addressed those, and then we're still working with them on stage 2.
Okay. And comments we had regarding traffic, those have all been satisfactorily addressed.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from board members on the CPL memo? Okay. Dennis Lynch of MJ Engineering prepared a memo dated May 8th, 2026.
Yep. We have our memo. The majority of our comments, I think, have been satisfied. We do have some outstanding, which are kind of more outside agencies. We did note that there's the highway work permit, which it sounds like you guys are working with the DOT on that. The Board of Health approval for the on-site septic. And then there were some comments on the SWIP. I think there were some references to the old permit, which just need to be updated. A maintenance agreement would need to be, a maintenance and agreement would have to be in place for the on-site stormwater basins. And then in the SWIP, I know you said you're not going to be disturbing any more than 5 acres. I just asked on the sediment erosion control plan if you could note the acreage of disturbance, if it's going to be phased, what the each phase would be, and have the sequence of stabilization before going to the next phase. So that, other than that, all the other comments have been addressed.
I believe you mentioned you had some.
Yeah, do you have any?
Do you have comments for our consultant team?
Well, just some clarifying questions. So the maintenance agreement, does the town have a form that they want us to use for the maintenance agreement?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, so we just submit.
Correct, we would review it.
Standard, okay. Okay, and then the DOH approval, that needs to be provided to the chair before the chairman signs the final plans?
Correct, that would be a condition of final.
That would be a condition of final site plan approval or preliminary?
It would be a condition that would have to be satisfied before you get a signed site plan.
So when does the board sign the plan?
After all the conditions.
After all the conditions are met.
So we can't, we need the DOH approval in hand
Correct.
before we can get a signature?
A signature on a signed site plan in order to get a building permit, correct.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Tyler, did you have any questions?
You addressed it with the maintenance agreement.
Oh.
You good? I did have a question for Dominic. So last month, this board adopted question for Dominic. Last month, the board adopted a negative declaration for the project. The applicant team has made a presentation identifying some items that have been reduced in terms
Correct.
of parking, buffer that has been changed. There's different buffer now. What would that do in terms of our negative declaration? I believe that was a similar question that John had asked you with the previous application, but I want to pose the same question here.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, these aspects of the projects are reductions to potential environmental impacts, and so there's no need to, in my opinion, to reopen or revisit or even amend the negative declaration, since it basically provided for a determination that there were no significant environmental impacts associated with a more intensive project, and this is one that is less intensive, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to ask the question, just make sure that that's out there.
Of course.
Because we do have a neg deck with the change that has come since, and it
Yes.
is a significant change. It's not,
Yes.
you know.
Absolutely, and it is not atypical for there to be projects that get revisions to them after a negative declaration on their way to getting approval, and that become reduced in scope, and in which case it's consistent with what I had said.
And I mean, with that said, I mean, I'm going to ask the board in a moment. There are certainly things that the board may bring up that may result in additional changes as well. So I think, you know, there's still opportunity for this board to comment and
Absolutely.
And you know, bring up items that are of concern to them. So with that, I do want to ask the board if they do have any additional comments beyond what was discussed earlier. I think, Felix, you do.
Yeah, I do, if you don't mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dominic, I first have a question for you. I'm trying to, so now I know you guys were going to go to the town board, and now it's going to the ZBA, correct? So Dominic, when we read the code, basically regardless what happens with the town board or the ZBA, it's still the planning board that has to determine the parking based on what's reasonable and appropriate and fits the needs of the use?
Yes, that's correct.
So it's still the planning board, that, regardless what happens over there? Yes?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I wanted to make sure I got that clear, because I have a few things. Parking is one of the ones that has been bothering me since the beginning. My suggestion, I would like the board to think about this, my colleagues, to see what you think. I really feel all the parking should be left up top. I think if we have 67 spots up there, and if you can reconfigure the upstairs there, maybe find some more spots, that'd be fine. And you still have 10 spaces for your staff. 67 spaces for a visitor center, which is a small visitor center. I know you're gonna have people coming in that are hikers and looking to use the area. They may be coming for the restrooms or just to visit the visitor center. I think 67 spots would fit the needs of this use. It's a reasonable amount. It's not an unreasonable amount. If I had said you can have 5 spaces, that would be unreasonable. But 67 spaces seems reasonable. Also, we talk about need. You're saying the overflow is going to be closed most of the time. Maybe it might be used. I think if it was a demonstrated need, it would be something that I would be more inclined to say, yes, we need the overflow parking, but it hasn't been demonstrated that way. And I think maybe a compromise could be that, because I know you guys want to move things forward, that we keep the parking up top, and after things have opened and you guys have used the places, you can always come back to this board and seek relief and say, well, we really need more spaces because of X, Y, Z. But I don't think, looking at it, looking at the use, I believe 67 spaces, and if you get a few more up there, great, but I think that will fit the need of this use. Okay, so it's something I want my colleagues to think about, but before we go into that, I have a few more things and then we'll come back to that. I do want to talk about what Fred had mentioned, I think, last meeting, just talking about people coming across, because there's going to be another parking lot not too far. And
My concern is for Dominic, this is for you also again. My concern is that people might park at that other spot and then might try to walk across to our lot. And that would be a dangerous type of thing to do. So should the planning board be looking at that as a safety issue and what we should do about it? Or, because I know we talked about crosswalks, then that kind of went off, but when Fred talked about it, it made me think about it. I wasn't thinking about it, but, you know, we have to think about if somebody tries to come across, they may park across the other side, they may want to go to the visitor center, they may want to go, if it's on a weekend, they got the food trucks, they want to go there. So what's our position on that?
What I've suggested in the past, and it is a good time to bring it back up, so thank you for that, Felix, is that similar to what the board has done on other projects, would be to require the applicant to undertake a post-construction, post-opening study of how the site is being used and, you know, what operational issues there are, specifically as it relates to pedestrian safety and traffic issues, and require that the applicant, typically it could be 6 months or a year after, you know, so you have a certain amount of data, including after the initial flush perhaps of people that are going there just because it's brand new and it's open, but after it's being utilized on a more regular basis, to look at how it's functioning and to see whether or not any additional improvements are necessary. And where the board would retain jurisdiction over the project, they would be compelled as part of their conditions of approval to do that. And that way the board can look at things when they're truly operational rather than more theoretical or anticipatory.
The same, you didn't mention the parking in what you said, but that could also be applied to the overflow parking as well then.
It could be. It could be, yeah.
I just have a couple more things. We got, of course, we keep getting email on different things, and you know, we saw it looked like a brown area, like pesticide had been used in this area. And I remember when we walked it and we talked about it. The feeling was you were going to use it like spot treatment to getting invasive species. Was it necessary to do that whole area, and what was actually used there? Because it seemed like that's a very big area.
It's about an acre, and that is the wildflower meadow restoration area. That's on that downward slope that we looked at on the site tour. It is the same protocols of what we had written up in the memo that we had provided the board, so it's nothing different. I think the big change is that it's time of year. It's a little earlier this year, where before things are really grown very strongly, because things are still coming out, so I think it does make a bigger visual impact. And the reason it was done earlier is because we plan to start the seeding this year to get the wildflower meadow going.
Okay. And one last thing, I know we got one more email about the neighbors up north, north of the project, talking about like buffering, and did you see that? You know, I don't know if you got that email?
Yes.
And you know, what are we doing buffering up on the northern part?
Right. Right now, we'd looked at signage to see if it is a problem. We could always put up a fence. Mr. Richards is particularly concerned about whether people would be tempted to walk across this little area that's a little flatter. Right now, all of the activity is up here instead of on this slope. There's no kind of trail infrastructure to pull somebody down the hill that way, so we hope that is not a problem. And when I had a discussion with Mr. Richards, he was really thinking about more as northern pieces open up if somebody's tempted to try to get someplace else. But right now, all of the traffic would be heading south. So, you know, if a fence was needed because behaviors weren't controlled by the signage, we'd be happy to work with Mr. Richards on that.
haven't been out there. It's,
Yeah, well,
and this guy may never build either,
well,
you know.
I think it's important to just at least make sure we do what we can to keep the neighbors, at least their privacy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Could I ask a follow-up question?
Follow? No.
Go ahead.
Well, there's been a lot of discussion on parking and the total supply needed. We're working with analysis that was done by a national, they specialize in visitation planning, trying to project how many numbers, how many parking spaces, and they are the ones who we're trusting with their sort of projections. And I think we'd be getting slaps on our wrist right now for how much we've actually cut the parking from the recommended levels. And the concern is if we cut the parking too much, we're going to wind up with some of the bad behaviors we're trying to control for, which is people parking in bad places, walking on 9D instead of safely off-road in a lot someplace. So we are really at that edge. So my question is really, would it be helpful, like you're saying you feel it's appropriate to the use, would it be helpful to see more of their analysis on this, sort of this consultant,
I'm
expert?
not against seeing analysis at all. So I'm not against seeing any analysis.
But as it currently stands,
As it currently stands, I think,
Felix, hold on.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Eventually, you're going to hook this property into the trail, going down the hill, correct? That's what you've informed us.
That's the long-term vision.
Huh?
That's the long-term vision, yes.
All right. Because just as a business center without that hook up to the trail, I agree with Felix, because people are going to drive in and drive out. They might drive in, get information, and drive to one of the other parking spots. But if it's also going to be used as a halfway point between the two ends, it's basically in the middle, and people are going to start there, all right?
Yeah.
And only do half the trail and come back, I think there would be more of a parking problem.
Correct.
So any idea, we'll say, it would be done in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Right.
And that's, and that's the question.
Right.
All right?
Thank you.
I
I mean, we don't want to build something that's going to be completely dysfunctional in 2 years.
Okay, so it's going to be one of the starting spots for the trail, all right? Besides all the other ones, because we were not really allowed to talk about all the other parking spots.
I know it's an oddity of this, but yes.
But if that's the case, I can see more of it, because again,
Here's the
I
issue
use
have,
it.
Fred.
Go ahead.
And I hear exactly what you're saying. This is what the whole talk about was in the beginning, was everything that's being done, and this is just a piece of it. So the problem I have is we have to look at this one piece and not look at, I mean, when that happens in 2032, we're looking at 2033, they can come back and look for parking.
this application is
Yes.
the center
Right.
right now.
Yeah.
There is no trail today.
Right, there's no trail. So we're looking at the use today as it is in front of what we're doing, right? So I mean, we're looking at today's use. We're not supposed to be looking at this fjords trail as a whole. We're supposed to look at it independently, and that's what we've been told from the beginning. So, yeah, maybe you're right when that comes up, but that'll be, let's say, 2032. Let them come back in 2032.
I think
not that
that's
far.
a conundrum that you find yourself in here.
Yeah, I mean, you can come back and get
Because
the
Felix
extension.
is absolutely right. If you just try to justify all those parking spaces with just that particular center, the way your current plan is structured, maybe you have an analysis that says we need 67 places or 124 places.
Well, the
If you do, I'd like to see that, but
Yeah.
but if we imagine this as the gateway north to the Hudson Highland Trail, then it's a completely different perspective.
Right.
But we're not allowed to do that because we're looking at this project.
I know, it's a frustrating situation for all. So but keep in mind, the way the first structure is like we're serving what's existing, and that is two things, not just the manor, but it's also the breakneck connector area where we're reducing parking. So historically, the park manager told me they were able to fit around 200-plus cars. Not parked safely, mind you, but parked there. And we're reducing that to just over 100. So we got an extra 100 cars that want to go someplace on a nice weekend, and they need someplace safe to go. So the idea is that that parking is coming uphill, and then we're shuttling people back down to the trailhead in the near term.
Right, but we're having, how many more spots are going across the street? Like about 8?
And again, that is part of the larger project,
So-
and that
but
is
you're
serving the
talking about
future
the-
use.
You're talking about the parking you just lost on the bottom and saying that they're coming north. They'll be coming there too, right? And they'll be going to the one that's north of us. So it's, you can't tell me not to look at it and then tell me that I have to look at something that's coming up. I mean, just, it's very frustrating that we're told one thing, we gotta look at one thing, and then you kind of open up another can of worms and say, we have to look at all these other things.
I agree. The application's a visitor center as it currently stands. I think there should be some demonstrated need, once it's in place, that what is there at the top parking lot is no longer sufficient, because there is no trail today. We don't know the exact date that is going to open. We do not know what the use patterns are going to be. We have models, but this board clearly does not feel comfortable with that, from what I can hear, unless others feel otherwise. But yeah, the application is the center.
Yeah, once the visitor center opens, I mean, you can see how how many cars are getting in the parking lot, and if the parking lot is not enough, then you can file for an extension.
But guys, we're not using it as a primary parking, so it's a secondary parking. It's going to be gated off 90% of the time. The cars aren't there.
Well, that's another sticking point, because there was a presentation a few meetings ago where the presentation said that it would only be used on weekends, but I asked the applicant to commit to that on the plans as a note, and because I think in the presentation doesn't really do us any good, there was no commitment there to limiting the lot to certain days, so then we have to assume it potentially could be open all days.
Yes.
Or it could be potentially never open.
Or never, and then we have a lot that's not being used either. So,
And when I look at the code, and it talks about the needs of the use, well, that parking fits the need. Now, the overflow may be a want. I don't see it as a need at this point. I really don't.
Are you suggesting that a certain number of cars that are currently parked on 9D illegally, you want to ensure that your parking in your area includes, as part of another study that you have, that certain number of cars, the parking for that certain number of cars in order to ensure safety? So that to me is another use, right? It is not just parking for the visitor center.
Correct.
It is essentially to take up, I'll make it up, 50 spaces of parking.
Correct.
That would normally park on Route 9D. If that's a requirement, and you can demonstrate that as a part of the study, then the whole requirement changes.
That is correct. It is serving both of those, and that is why we're operating a shuttle that would take people from one point to the other point, because they're tied together. And I know the Wades Hill lot has been raised as sort of this, well, then that's doing that, and you can trade this for that, but the Wades Hill lot is part of the larger project that you're not allowed to consider, right? What you're allowed to consider is this coupled with the breakneck area, which is an existing condition. And it's those numbers that pack into what we've been presenting. What's in the Wades Hill lot is additional visitation future for the larger project. So that lot might not be full in the near term, but we're building it to what we know we'll need in the longer term. So that lot is for the future trail, which you're not allowed to consider, but I don't think it's fair to take the parking from the larger project and supplant it and use it to cover something over here, because that's I'd like to keep the math over here and then the math over here.
I think I understand what you're saying. My thought here is, if you just tell us and are able to demonstrate that we need parking for our visitor center, and that's the 67, but we also want to usurp 100 of the cars that are currently being parked, and those cars are going to come at such and such a time frame into our visitor center, so therefore we need another 50 spaces. So 67 plus 50 is 117. I don't know.
Better than me, yeah.
I mean, that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I
a
think
different set of requirements, I think.
Yeah, I think the point here is that we definitely want to see, or need to see more analysis. I think as it currently stands, this board sounds like we are not comfortable with at least the lower parking area. To be demonstrated that the parking up top is what is needed for the visitor center, which is the application. And I guess, Dominic, I think that would be something we would be looking for in a subsequent submittal. Is there any other way or any other requests that might aid us in getting to that? Because clearly this board does not, that lower lot is something that we think is in excess of what would be needed for a visitor center, which is the application. So my recommendation would be additional analysis and consideration from the applicant as to how they intend to proceed.
But that does not tie in all the project, the whole project is one? Because that's what we were told not to look at.
Only if we can leave Wade's Hill out of the conversation, you do not conflate it with the larger project. If we just focus on the breakneck area and what's in this site plan, then that's a nice clean map.
A breakneck's not part of this application. This is a visitor center.
Yeah, I don't see how breakneck.
Yeah, but it's also a shuttle visitor center. They're putting in the shuttle.
It's the gate.
Yeah, but I understand the shuttle's going somewhere else, but now we're saying that this is breakneck's part of this. How? I don't see it.
Parking for breakneck.
I understand what you're saying.
Parking for breakneck, so that's part of the use.
I still don't see it. You know what, I'm just gonna stick with where I'm at. I really think the parking should stay up top. And I don't know if my.
And I think a condition would be to demonstrate that the parking,
You know what?
after a potential approval as a condition, that let the applicant demonstrate that after 12 months that additional is needed, and here's the kind of visitation we're getting, and it's exceeding what the parking is, and I think this board would entertain addressing it further. I don't think.
I kind of agree with Felix, I don't know. I kind of feel the same way, so.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
What is the objection, other than just it's this number of parking spaces in this
The application is a
location?
visitor center. It's a building, and folks can, walk the grounds. That is the application that is before us.
Then why do we need a shuttle? We're having a spot for a shuttle, guys, to move people from this spot, the visitor center, to places where they can walk or go, even if somebody wants to park there and take the shuttle into Beacon.
So
Can they do it?
They can park at one of the other locations and take a shuttle to this?
Well, but again, this is the main one.
So
This is supposed to be the main one.
Peter Mullen, I'm president of the Fjord Trail. Clearly, we hear you, right? We hear you that there are concerns about the parking.
And the public.
And the neighbors immediately to the south, correct? Let us come back. We know we have to come back, right? So we're going to come back next month with some clarity on the parking argument and our analysis for why we need it, why we think it's a good idea. We think that our plan to have it as overflow is good planning. Right? Good planning, right? So that's the premise of all of this. To be respectfully, we don't want to come back to this board again in a year, because it took us, we've been going through this for 18 months, more, 2.5 years. So let's see if we can make a strong, a clear case for why the parking is needed. We'll come back, we'll submit that, and then we can pick up the discussion with more information. Does that sound like a good plan?
I think that's fair. I would also kind of say this as well. I did notice earlier, during the presentation, when the question was asked if there was any discussion with the public, I did see some nodding heads in the public that discussions have not been happening. I don't know whether or not those are substantiated.
We're happy to have
Yeah, I
conversations
would,
with
you know,
neighbors, but
there's some folks here this evening, perhaps after the meeting. It's just, I don't know. I'm just, what I'm seeing.
No, I think, look, I think we know where the neighbors would like us to get, right? We are in a disagreement about what is the best solution for the larger public in this location. So I think we know what their position is, and we feel that we have come a long way in trying to address the concerns that they are hoping to resolve with their suggestions. So, and I don't think we're there yet. We have a disagreement. So I think
I think steps have been made. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that.
I mean, we've gone from what was the original total was 180, and we've reduced by a third. So
yeah, I don't think we're disputing the number. I think those are definitely steps. But yeah, I agree with you. If something could be presented, to us.
Totally fair.
Yeah,
we'll clarify it up and make it clear, because look, it's a huge project, the Fjord Trail. It's complicated. This is a really important part of it. We want to get it right. So we'll make the case and we'll clarify.
Understood. And I know when you say, I get a little conflicted when you say it's part of the Fjord Trail. This application is.
I understand. There's the application.
And when you say that, I think it just.
I
know what you're trying to say.
We'll clarify that. I'm just trying to be practical about the reality in the world, right? So, try to achieve both things.
Understood. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know I spent a lot of time on a few topics here. I don't know if everybody on the board had a chance to, are there any other topics that?
Well, I just had one other thing. If you ever make the front gate an electronic gate, you can't do it because you're going to have people queued coming off at 9D. I was just going to tell you, it's only going to be open and close.
That's right, no gate to go in. It would only be to go out.
Okay. All right, because I also heard you're going to potentially charge for parking at one time, with somewhere in that. And then if you charge for parking, where do you put the gate to get them in and out?
It'll be kiosk-based instead of gate-based parking, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from board members? Okay. Since there is a request for a determination to the ZBA pertaining to Town Code Chapter 150-11, which is going to be discussed at the May 19th ZBA meeting, I don't believe, and also in light of the discussion about wanting to see more information on the parking, I don't believe that the board is in a position to take any actions this evening, but I would like to ask Dominic Cordisco for your thoughts.
Thoughts on?
Any actions this board may entertain this evening. I think, there's certainly been some issues with parking that we'd like to see more information on, and there's a ZBA meeting coming up.
Well, I would anticipate that the applicant is going to provide the additional analysis that they mentioned and justification for the board to consider. You will also have the benefit of the upcoming ZBA meeting, will have passed by the next planning board meeting. So I think at that time, if you're satisfied, the next procedural step would be to authorize preparation of a draft resolution for you to consider. You have closed out seeker on this project. And as I might emphasize, the seeker has also been closed out on the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail as well. So like in terms of the environmental review, it's closed out for both this particular project as well as for the trail itself overall. So, the board's scope and focus is limited in terms of, you have a record before you. It also is not theoretical as to what the aspects of the Fjord Trail are, because that record has been closed out by New York State.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any we would expect to see additional information related to the parking for next month's meeting. And would have the benefit of the ZBA meeting, and then at next month's meeting. If you're satisfied
at that point,
we could entertain.
The appropriate next step would be to authorize.
Authorizing the drafting at the June meeting.
Yes, that would be right. At the June meeting for the July.
For the July, correct. Yes. Thank you. I think that's where we stand.
If there are other comments, also, we'd love from the board, it'd be great to hear them so that then we could also address those at the next meeting as well, in case there are any others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, unless there's any other comments from board members, I think you pretty much got where we are at this point, where our main issues lie. I'm not hearing anything further, so I think that would be what we would like to see some focus on for next month's meeting. Yeah, if there's nothing further on your end, I think we're good with this item for this evening, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that is the final item on the agenda for this evening. The next... Oh, I thought I missed the procedural step there. You're delaying the closing of the meeting here. The next scheduled planning board meeting will take place on June 11th, Thursday, June 11th, 2026, with a submittal deadline of Wednesday, May 27th, 2026 by 2:30 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Fred moves it. Robbie second. No discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. I think that's an aye from everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good meeting.